We all know that Avengers Endgame was going to be a bittersweet affair. When we lost both Black Widow and Iron Man, we were still devastated. Tony Stark was the only one out of the two to have a funeral, and while his memorial was a who's who of the MCU, there were plenty of faces that were missing. Let's take a look at some characters who wouldn't have been out of place at Tony's funeral. Stan Lee, all the way back to the made-for-television movie The Trial of the Incredible Hulk, a movie where TV's Hulk counterpart David Banner was defended in court by none other than Matt Murdock. Stan Lee has been making cameos in Marvel movies that feature characters he had a hand in creating. Over the years, the anticipation of a Stan Lee cameo has become a hallmark of any Marvel movie. He's even made a cameo in DC's Teen Titans Go to the Movies. His cameos even led to the fan theory that he was in fact playing Uatu, the Watcher. James Gunn even took a spin on that with the Stan Lee cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where he was actually debriefing a group of Watchers. Iron Man was one of Stan Lee's Dare characters. Lee and Kirby had a knack for making impossible heroes, in this case, an industrialist and weapons maker who becomes a hero. He quickly became an ideal Cold War-era superhero, fighting Soviet counterparts like Crimson Dynamo and Titanium Man. With the on-screen death of one of his most iconic characters, it would have been nice to have his cameo at Tony's funeral. It would have been all the more touching with the recent passing of the comic book legend. Dr. Helen Cho. After the invasion of Earth by the Chitauri, Tony Stark was shook. It's all fun and games taking on Earthbound threats and his father's old rivals, but Norse gods and space aliens raised the stakes. When he got a chance to do some experimenting with the Mind Stone in Loki's scepter, he took it trying to build a suit of armor around the world. Of course, that went south in a bad way, and instead of building a sentient robot army, he created Ultron. Ultron heads straight to the internet and comes to the natural conclusion that to save Earth, it has to clear it of people. Ultron eventually gathered a few recruits, including the Maximoff twins, Wanda and Pietro. The killer android also recruited thanks to the Mind Stone scientist Helen Cho, who created a new body for Ultron that ultimately became Vision. She is instrumental in bringing Ultron down and is subsequently given a job as part of the Avengers science team. As a member of the Science Bros of the Avengers, Tony Stark would have been a major figure for Helen, so she probably would have wanted to be at the memorial for Tony Stark. Sharon Carter. The super spy they tasked with keeping tabs on the unfrozen super soldier Steve Rogers was Agent 13. It turns out that she was Sharon Carter, the niece of Peggy Carter, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s original super spy. Sharon Carter became a key figure in Cap's life, even delivering the plant yourself like a tree speech that Cap gave Spider-Man in the Civil War comics that affirms Rogers' determination to stand up for his friend Bucky. While that put Sharon Carter firmly on Team Cap in the conflict between teammates, the two Avengers were able to bury the hatchet and team up for the time heist that undid the snap. With Sharon being the closest thing to regular family that Steve had, it would have made sense for Sharon to be with Steve at the burial of his friend and teammates. Dr. Erik Selvig. There have been a lot of people who have had a bad time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but maybe the roughest outside of the Avengers frontline has been Dr. Erik Selvig. He's the scientist that first encounters the exiled Thor, along with his future ex-girlfriend Jane Foster. This leads him on a series of adventures, including getting the Thunderer out of S.H.I.E.L.D. custody and helping defeat Loki. Loki returns that favor by taking over Selvig's mind with his scepter to gain the Tesseract, and use it to open a portal to the invading Chitauri fleet. This takes a toll on Selvig's sanity, and he is a bit of a break, which gives him an early front row to the MCU's multiverse, even identifying Earth 616, traditionally the main Marvel continuity before it became Earth Prime, and what Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio, calls the MCU's world. At the end of Age of Ultron, Selvig joins the Avengers science team alongside Helen Cho and is even tasked with trip-setting Thor when he goes into the Water of Sight to get that preview of the coming of Thanos. Even though he's really more of a Thor buddy, his role in the Battle of New York and in the Avengers science team surely would have been enough to garner him an invite to Tony's memorial. Valkyrie. As a part of Odin's elite army, the Valkyrie were tasked with reining in his conquering daughter after she wasn't cool with transitioning from conqueror to benevolent ruler. Unfortunately for the Valkyrie, that didn't go well. Hela was eventually trapped away in another realm, but the loss really stuck with the last of the Valkyrie. She dealt with that loss with copious amounts of drinking and bringing the Grandmaster gladiators from across the universe. Eventually, Thor convinced her to join the Revengers when she got her second shot at Hela, as well as rescuing the remaining Asgardians from not only Hela, but the Mad Titan himself, Thanos. When the time came to take it to a Thanos from the past who has come to the future, she was there to give Spider-Man a wild ride and run interference for Captain Marvel. While Valkyrie and Stark never interacted on screen, she was there for the big fight and also there for Thor, so she wouldn't have been out of place at the memorial. Cassie Lang. One of the rumors for the future of the MCU is the Young Avengers. We might have already seen some of the team members in the Daughters of Avengers Clint Barton and Scott Lang. In the comics, Scott Lang's daughter Cassie takes over her father's size-adjusting heroic ways, and in the MCU, she's already volunteered to be her dad's sidekick in only the most adorable scene ever. Stature joins Iron Lad and the Hulkling to form the Young Avengers, which might be the future of the team in the MCU. With her dad being such a key factor in bringing back the Dusted, and her possibly being the future of the MCU, she would have fit in at the funeral. Everett Ross. The Everett Ross of the comics was created as a point of view for the outsiders of Wakanda. With Wakanda being both highly secretive and fictional, that means everyone. The CIA agent and liaison to Wakanda and its superhero king has been a part of the Black Panther storyline since 1998. Mostly his job is to underestimate Wakanda and its king. He brought those underestimating ways to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as the CIA agent that was dealing with the rogue programmable assassin Bucky Barnes, or at least he thought. It turned out he was really Helmut Zemo. Everett rejoined the Wakandan king for his first solo movie, where he got a big front row seat to how advanced Wakanda really is. But it's his involvement in Civil War that earns him the spot at the memorial. First of all, he was Team Iron Man all the way. Not just in supporting the Sokovia Accords, but also supporting Stark's nuanced approach to those accords that led to Ross taking Zemo into custody. While he resigned from his superhero monitoring ways to hunt down Ulysses Klaue, he was still part of the official apparatus that interacted with the Avengers. He could have kept Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross company at the memorial as a representative of the government. Dummy. While trapped in that cave in Afghanistan, Tony Stark didn't have a lot of opportunity to do some prototype testing of his Mark I Iron Man suit of armor. This meant that his flying was less controlled flight and more just shooting himself into the horizon. But Tony Stark didn't become Tony Stark by stopping at his first design. In fact, upgrading his armor would become a hallmark of Tony Stark's Iron Man. He went from a hand-hammered suit to one in a briefcase to his nanotech Infinity War suit. The road to the Mark II armor wasn't exactly smooth. There were more than a few missteps and at least one crushed Shelby Cobra, while Tony's later attempts at creating a robot that would defend the Earth went all kinds of wrong. Before Ultron, he had Dummy, who was on hand to keep his early tests with the Iron Man armor from catching fire. Like Ultron though, Dummy was maybe a little more proactive than Tony would have liked. Tony's memorial was a somber affair, so having the comic relief robot there wouldn't have made much sense, but having Morgan playing with a toy version of the eager robot would have been a nice callback to Iron Man's origins. President Matthew Ellis. The Earth of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is very similar to ours, which makes all the pop culture references by Peter Quill, Peter Parker, and Tony Stark make sense. There are some key differences, of course, most notably the existence of the Avengers and various other superheroes, obviously. Another one is the identity of the 45th President of the United States. For the MCU, that's President Matthew Ellis. During Iron Man 3, President Ellis was targeted by Aldrich Killian and his Extremis project. Of course, Iron Man was onto him and saved the day with the help of his Iron Man drones, Pepper Potts, and a boy in his garage named Harley Keener. Of course, Harley Keener was at the funeral. He was that teenager all your non-MCU obsessed friends asked you about. Anyway, heads of state are known for making appearances at the funerals of important figures, especially if said figures literally save their lives. The thing is, even a former president can't go anywhere casually, so perhaps he thought that private ceremony didn't need all the extra Secret Service attention. Christine Everhart. It's not only superheroes and super scientists for the genius billionaire playboy philanthropist. He was larger than life long before he put on a suit of armor and prioritized world peace. Before he became Iron Man, he wasn't known for his peace-spreading ways. Pre-Iron Man, he was known as the Da Vinci of our time, which is ridiculous because he doesn't paint, and of course the Merchant of Death. Which is better? At least according to Vanity Fair reporter from Brown University, Christine Everhart. She met Tony Stark before his hero days and did a spread on him, as well as an article. It's a distinction that Tony and Pepper make when Justin Hammer tries to humble brag on the article she's writing about him in the second Iron Man movie. For some understandable reasons, Stark's eventual wife Pepper Potts isn't the biggest fan of Everhart. When she was just Tony's assistant and not head of Stark Enterprises as Tony's heart, it was Pepper's job to usher out Stark's dalliances. That alone might be enough to explain her absence at Tony's memorial. However, she's still been there as part of Tony's journey from louse to superhero, and probably would have liked to pay her respects to the man who saved the universe.
The truth is, I am Iron Man.
Those are some of the characters that could have been at Tony Stark's funeral. Who would you like to see at the memorial? Let us know in the comments, and while you're there, why not subscribe to CBR for more MCU videos and ring that notification bell to have them sent to your inbox? As always, thanks for watching.